Welcome back to the Champions Podcast. We're glad to have you with us today. I'm going to share some exciting things that either happened or coming up for me, and then we will just dive right into whatever Champ's thoughts are today. So recently, on May 23rd, I was able to witness my niece Addison graduate high school. And it was special, obviously, for her because she's such a wonderful young woman. But she received like so many honors. I really don't even remember what all they were. I just know she had a lot of cords and a lot of medals. And she is going to be going to college. So I'm excited to see where her life takes her with that. But it was such a special moment for me because, like, most people think, oh, graduation, yeah, that's special. But for me, it just hit different because there were so many times that I wondered through my health, would that day even come that I would be able to witness such a milestone? And sitting there and seeing her walk across the stage, it was a moment of gratitude to say, Lord, thank you for her life. Thank you for her accomplishments. But thank you for my life and me being able to sit here today and witness such an amazing moment for her. And so that was just really special to me. And like I said, she'll be going to college in the fall. So I'm just excited to see where God's plans take her with the next chapter of her life. Is funny sometimes because in my head, I still almost feel like she's still a little girl. But I wrote an original song for her called "Strong and Courageous," and I put a music video up. And if you go to like my Facebook and my YouTube, you can see the full video. But the song is available wherever you listen to your music from. And I wrote this song because I wanted it to serve, because writing something in a card obviously is great, but I wanted her to have this song and video that whether she's 18 years old, whether she's 30 years old, whether she's 40 years old, that she can always look back at this video throughout times in her life and know Aunt Heather wrote me a song and did this video and put so much thought into it. And this is how she feels, and so many of my other family feel about me, that I'm a family treasure. I'm loved. And in the song, I actually talk about, um, keep believing in yourself, that you're never walking solo, and remembering that on hard days, what the Savior says, and to cast your cares, and that she's worthy. And I just went into, how I blinked and now she was standing there cap and gown. And so it's a special song to me, and she appreciated it, which was nice. But I just wanted that to serve as something that she could have forever, to know, because the truth is, adulthood, you're going to go through highs and lows, and I wanted her to always be able to just kind of look back at that. And then we went from that to now my 34th birthday is coming up on June 3rd, and that is another milestone and victory for me. But I'm also taking a quick trip to Tennessee. So I'll be going to my usual Carrie Underwood fan club party. That's just what I like to do every year for my birthday when I'm able to go. And so I'm doing that. And then I'm actually, the day of my birthday, I'm traveling from Nashville to see, and I've spoke about him here before. He's been a guest, but one of my who I call my warrior brother. I'm seeing Dustin Chapman in Dollywood, and I'm going to Dollywood for the first time on my birthday, June 3rd. So it's going to be a really quick trip, but it will be just so much gratitude and just all of God's love and mercy. So I'm excited for that, and just living life, being able to just have the energy to do the things I want to do and the stamina. So I'm just diving right into everything. And so it is nice to to go and do something different for my birthday because normally, you think about you do the same things. Maybe you go to the same restaurant, and this time I'll be able to go somewhere I've never been before and see my warrior brother. So we're excited to be able to spend some time together. I hadn't been able to see him since he actually left to go to Dollywood because I just was not in a position before my kidney to be able to go see him. And so now we're making that happen. I'm fulfilling my promise to him that I was going to make it happen. And then we also have Champ's birthday will be coming up in July. So that's exciting. Champ, what are your plans for your birthday this year?
So, well, you know how I redirect everything, and I want to take a couple of steps back. So our personality, yours and mine, are so different. I'm very expressive in a lot of things, but as I listen to you talk about things like Addison's graduation and things of that nature, I like you have this resting face, but you can tell by your words that you are just so proud of her and just the way that you articulate and talk about what is that? Why is that so impactful for you? Um, and what does it mean to you to watch? Because obviously neither you nor I have children of our own yet, and why is that so impactful for you? What made that so much? I mean, I know, but I just want to see how you would
I
articulate
think
that.
it's because, and yes, Champ is right. Sometimes I have the resting face, but inside I may be jumping for joy. I think, well, and I'll say this, I have no bitterness or hard feelings because I cannot have biological children. I don't. It doesn't bother me. And I guess I always knew um, that if I had a niece or a nephew, and obviously I have, you know, a few of them, I think that because also me and my sister are so close and grew up so close, that Addison and me obviously have been so close. And I think for me, it's getting the honor and the privilege of being an aunt, something I hold at such a high level that it's not about showering them with gifts or anything like I have always put emphasis on letting them see that even though their aunt may be different maybe she's not able to do all the physical things some people can do, or maybe I'm gonna have to miss some of their birthday parties or things like that for reasons that I still love them unconditionally and that I'm still here. And I really appreciate that none of them have ever made me feel less for what I can't do and can't show up for. But I think the reason it means so much is because I get the blessing of having a child in my life. And I don't know what it's like to love a child as a parent, but I can imagine that being an aunt is the closest thing to it besides a grandmother. And so I have just always had the privilege and the honor to be an aunt and carry that love and that I'm their cheerleader. And I have a reality that I know one day I may not be here. And so while I'm here, I want to encourage them any way I can. I want to see them succeed because that makes my heart happy. And so I think that's where that comes from is it's not about me, but it's about just the blessing because she's such a, like I said, an amazing young woman, and she just has God in her heart, and she just, the way she carries herself is just it makes me so proud. And, a lot of people would say that, but it's true. Like she is the way she carries herself, the way she loves. And it's not about, I would be proud of her if she didn't have all those honors, but it was just that she puts her mind to something and she does it. And I think like that's why I said I think it comes from not necessarily that I can't have children, but it comes from just receiving the blessing of being an aunt and knowing that I have this purpose that I can help instill in a child. Of course, she's not a child as much anymore. She's going to be 18, but kind of pouring in my love to her and seeing where she grows. And for me, that's just so special to just watch and know that, hey, that's my niece. She's a part of my DNA. Now, I don't want people to take that as, oh, well, if you're having an adopted child or something, that they're any less. Absolutely not. What I mean is, for me, not being able to have children, she is the closest thing I will have to having a child. So I think that's where that comes from.
No, and I got that. I think it's so powerful the way you articulate that. Um, and I kind of know some of the joy that you have. I don't have nieces and nephews yet. Um, Lord knows when the Lord and even if the Lord is to bless me with my own children, which I pray that He does, that is a huge desire of mine. And Heather and I may talk about in other episodes. There are some medical things for her that are different than they are for me, and we both recognize that. And I think for me, um, it's different, but it's similar to like. I think, at least for me, being that Leighton was so much younger than me, no, I didn't treat him like he was a nephew, but him being so much younger than me, just watching him do the things that I had already done and just seeing them from you have a different vantage point, right? A different
Mhm.
lens by which we see the world. We saw it through our own eyes. Um, we hear wisdom from our own eyes, and we hear wisdom through different voices. Layton is able to give me wisdom now. I think both in marriage and just life that I'm like, no, I don't want this from you. But then I take a step back and I'm like, I love that. I love that you have both matured enough and have enough love that you're willing to say whatever it might be that I need to hear, whether it's a rebuke or a question or a concern. And so I love the way that you describe that in those ways, in just being able to pour into Addison. And I know that you've always been so proud of her, and you've always, you know, wanted to lavish love on her, but just watching her grow, and now that she's a woman, she is a young lady who is embarking upon new things, and I just think that's really awesome. Now, the birthday, the celebrations. Let's go back and say that I can't wait for this week's episode to come out before this one. This week's episode, or last week's episode that we did, is a conversation with a CFer who is turning 70. And just watching that and listening back to that and then hearing you say, I'm going into my 34th year, there's got to be a level of pride and a level of no, there's a level of awareness for both him and for you. Yours in a different way, obviously, but just that number. me, but I think when I don't want to say introduced to you, but when I started like learning more about CF and what you went through as a child and young adult and teenager, it was always told to me personally, and Heather and I can say this, you know, publicly because we've talked about it before. The numbers were always so pivotal, right? I mean, I was told there's a good chance she may not make it past her teen years. There's a good chance
Mhm.
she may not make it past into her 20s. And so every year, now we're in 34, and we're like, what? Huh? And we talk a lot about defeating the odds, but and I've asked the question to you before, but when you think about all of that, what does that do for you? What do you feel? I mean, what kind of emotions well up?
I think, and I would feel this whether I was an organ recipient or not, but it just puts more emphasis on that because I have survived some of the most difficult days of my life. But I think when you live with CF, and we're talking about cystic fibrosis, there's a life expectancy over your head. And even if you're living, it's kind of like it's hanging above your head, kind of like a voice that says, "Oh, but you, but," and then you have friends die, and it does something to your brain, but it also gives you a drive that you've never had before because you're like, "No, I don't want that to be me," and I want to get it right that you can do everything right and still pass from CF, but I was told several times you're not going to live to this. You're not going to live that. Matter of fact, most doctors would tell you, oh, just take them home, get them comfortable, love them as much as you can because they're not going to make it. And I have faced death in the face many times, but I think it gives me a whole new lease on life, but it also just it fires me up because most people look at getting older as a negative, like, oh my gosh, I have this. Oh my gosh, I have this. To me, I want to shout it from the rooftops that I'm in my 30s. I have nothing to be ashamed of because it's a it's a victory. It's a victory to sit here today and say I'm a myself. And I never know what next year could bring, but I live each day like it's my last. But it means something to me because there was a huge question mark whether this would even happen. But it did. Now, I will say it absolutely did not happen without God, and it obviously did not happen without my organ donors, and it obviously didn't happen without my type of fight I have and my will to live. But I think it just, when I see so many people say, oh, I'm over the hill, or oh, I'm this, or oh, I'm that, I just want to say, be thankful. Be thankful you have this life. Getting older is a gift. I mean, getting older is a gift. Yeah, you may have some aches and pains and maybe some things you didn't have when you were 15 or 16, but it is a gift. And it's a gift that so many people take for granted and complain about. So for me, it's like, I'm just like, it's setting in to say, wow, I made it another year. You know, I'm actually an age that pretty much nobody thought I might be able to make. And here I am. And I actually feel like I'm in probably one of the best years of my life with how I'm doing. And that doesn't mean that I don't still have CF or have problems. It just means that I'm in the thriving phase. And I think that it's so important sometimes to not focus so much on the what if and waiting for the other shoe to drop that I lose sight of where I'm at now and just celebrate the heck out of it. And that's what I plan to do.
Well, I hear you talk about, I thought this was absolutely hilarious when you talked about, you know, taking every age, okay,
Mhm.
realizing the treasure and the pleasure of getting older.
Mhm.
How many times do we say, I'm getting old? I'm getting old. I do it often, okay? All the time. I had a fall a couple weeks ago and thought I did something to my knee and then realized I don't really know what it did. I had an MRI done and nothing really came back. They said that one of the things might have been just some of the cartridge or some of the tendons and cartridge in my knee may be a little worn. And so I got that back, and I'm sitting here thinking, as you're telling about, it's a delight and a privilege to get older. I'm like, and here I am thinking, not that I don't want to get older, but I don't want to get older because I don't want to feel all of that. But that
Mhm.
those are like rites of passage, right? They're like those rites of passage that you're going to get older. Everybody's going to meet their end of this life. Um, but I think when you have a terminal illness, a chronic illness, you begin to see life in the moment that it is. And I don't know, like everybody's like, you don't hurt. I mean, listen, I don't deal with nothing what Heather deals with. I don't deal with a lot of pain, or I don't deal with pain, period. I don't deal with pain. I don't deal with any of that. Yes, I walk with a walker, but whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo. But I sit here and think like it's a gift. It's a gift. And my life is my legacy.
Mhm.
And it's the only thing that I've got worth sharing because when Heather and I breathe our last breath, what are people going to have about us? They're going to have nothing more than memories because my earthly body is going to be a shell of what was. Now there's more to come as Christians, but I think when I hear Heather talk about it and emphasize her birthday and I'm like, it's just another. But then I sit here and think, for her, that's life. For her, that's an opportunity. For her, that's another chance to speak to somebody else, to tell somebody else her story, to tell somebody else what Jesus has done for her. And by golly, he's done a lot. And so
And I
I
think
just
it's important to remember, like I've said this for years and years, and it doesn't mean I'm thinking negative, but it's like I don't have to live 80 years in order to be fulfilled. I don't have to live 80 years to celebrate now. So like I don't think about, well, am I going to turn 60? Am I going to turn 70? Am I going to turn 80? I don't think about that. I just think about each year now. I think about like June, like this June. Now, of course, that means obviously if you turn 40, 50, and 60, that's incredible. But I don't think about the future in that sense of, well, am I going to turn that? And
who
what if I
can?
don't? I just think about today and how can I live today? As you said, the legacy. I want mine to say that I lived the heck out of every single day and I never let anything stop me. And I hit the ground running and did every single thing I wanted to do.
I love that. I love that. And I think hearing Heather talk about, and again, I'm going back to the previous episode that we cannot wait for you to see this week, but or the week before this one. But I just think about like after hearing that episode, I kept thinking to myself, anything that I can do, I better do it. Anything, whether it's visiting somebody, whether it's speaking to somebody, whether it's shaking somebody's hand, because you don't know who you're shaking hands with, right? And so, like, ever since then, that's just been my mantra and my like the joy and the like. There's been some difficulty even in the last, but it's just. it is what it is, and take it and run with it. And so um, we're
But
excited about it.
what do you feel about your birthday coming up?
Honestly, I
And
feel
I
like it's
think you said in the last episode you were 35, and you're definitely not 35 because we're the same age. You're a month younger.
thank you, Heather. If I said 35, I'm sorry.
So do you
Um,
just feel 35?
no, no, I don't. No, I still feel 18. Heck, I don't know. No, I think when I think of my birthday, like here having this conversation today is going to be is humbling for me because like for me it's just another day. But then but then again, I don't worry about my life in the way that you do. I will tell you this, the place that you and I do connect is that I go back, okay? Not, let me be very clear. I'm not looking back to what I was and wanting to go back there, but I do see like, and I've said this 1,000 times on the podcast, I love to journal. And so my biggest thing is faithfulness. Just how good of a life I've been able to live. I've never lacked for anything. I've never really lacked for love or friendship or joy or opportunity or once in a lifetime opportunities or these things to meet great people. None of that. There's never been something that I really wanted to do that I really wasn't given the opportunity to do it if I wanted to do it, right? Um, and I think every time, the one thing that I keep looking back on is I'm not going to regret the things that I do, right? I'm going to regret the things I didn't do. And so, like, I'm going to look back over the course of my life and say that I'm blessed. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I'm blessed. And, if I tell people this all the time, if blessings were a currency, then I'm the wealthiest man other than Christ to ever walk the face of the earth. And I truly believe that. And just because of the opportunities and the things that I've learned, the mistakes that I've made. Like, thankful for my mistakes. And I made a lot of them, and some I'm not proud of. But you don't regret what you did or what you do. You regret what you didn't do or what you haven't done. And so, for me, it is a number, but it's also a gift, an opportunity, and just a journey, a story that the Lord is writing, and I just happen to get to be the character in that story. And he chose to create and form me to be a part of his wonderful plan. He chose to create both of us in our own unique way to be a part of a grand story that he's writing. Um, and what a privilege that is. So I think today's episode is going to go farther than we anticipate because I think it's raw. I think it's real, and I think it's what life is. And for the incoming episode, we're going to talk about the 1 year of this podcast. And I'm just really excited about that because that's kind of part two of this. And so we're thrilled and we hope that you've enjoyed today's episode. Um, I know that Heather will try to show some photos if she can from the graduation and from her birthday and those kind of things. But we hope that you are just encouraged to keep living, keep thriving, keep striving, and keep being a champion for Christ. Take care.